What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we are looking at Harpie ladies. I want to do an update to the deck. There's a couple of reasons why. The big ones are this right here, Cyber / Harpie Lady. This card is new. The deck actually has a boss monster that's actually like a pretty respectable card. Secondly, the deck got Harpie's Feather Duster to 1, which is huge because this is searchable in the deck, which is kind of crazy. And 3, Extravagance has been reprinted twice. So the deck gets much more budget. Instead of like one copy of this card costing like 60, 65 bucks, you can get a whole play set for about that. And so it really brings down the price of a deck like this that's already like not that cheap, guys. When you really go through the cards, because it's such a legacy deck and so many people love Harpies and Mai and everything, these cards are not that cheap. So especially with Extravagance and stuff, I want to try and, it is nice that the deck is a lot more affordable now. So yeah, without further ado, even though I just kind of spoiled you on a bunch of the deck, let's just go ahead and jump right in. Let's start off with our Harpie lineup. Starting off, we've got 3 Perfumer. This card is Stratos. On normal summon or special summon, it searches any card with Harpie Lady Sister in the card text. Actually, any spell or trap specifically. Yeah. And also, if when you did this, you controlled a level 5 or higher Harpie monster, like, I don't know, our new Cyber / Harpie Lady, then you can actually add 2 with different names instead of just 1, so that's insane. Next up, we have 3 copies of Harpie Channeler. I actually like this card a lot less than I did before. Here's the thing, though. This deck just needs summons. Like, Perfumer's the only good monster to open. Like, I get it, Channeler is actually pretty decent because you just go Channeler, discard a card to get Perfumer. Perfumer search you whatever else you want. An Egotist, a field spell, whatever you want. You've already got right there a Cyber / Harpie Lady. But she's also super weak to everything. Gamma, Impermanence, Veiler, Ash, Ogre, technically, too. Like, she's not that weak to Ogre, because, like, if she gets Ogred, you're fine about it, because you still get Perfumer. Perfumer gets you Egotist. Egotist gets you to Slash anyway. So, like, Ogre's not the worst one, but, like, all the other hand traps are just kind of brutal to this card. So, it's not as good as it was before, but we do need names, so I do play it at 3. We also play 2 copies of Harpist. Again, names. I used to play this at 3, but I've decided to drop it down to 2. I just don't think it's as good as I did before. It really doesn't do much. I mean, the only thing it really does is the end phase of the turn it's sent to the graveyard, you can add a level 4 winged beast from deck to hand with less than 1500 attack, so you're usually adding like Perfumer as a follow-up play, something like that. So yeah, 2 Harpist. We're also on 2 copies of Harpie Lady 1. This card is your elegant Egotist target. I don't really mess around with Cyber Harpie Lady. I think Harpie Lady 1 is a little bit better because, like, am I going to play an 1800 beater, or am I going to play this, which makes itself a 1600 beater and like everything else at least a 1700 beater? I'm like, why am I playing Cyber Harpie Lady at that point? She's just better. And 3's too many. I used to play 3 in the build, but it's too breaky, and I do play a card that kind of like helps with that, helps like reset that and get everything back in motion. This is 1 Harpie Oracle. It's a cool card. It says, like, if you control level 5 or higher Harpie Lady monster on the field, it can special itself from hand, and then when it's summoned on the end phase, you can add, like, I believe a card with Harpie Lady Sister in the name back to your hand. But if you control a level 5 or higher Harpie Lady, I think you can actually add 2 with different names. I think that's how it works. Can't remember exactly, but it's something like that. I play with the card. I've been testing with it. It doesn't really come up that often there, but it's a cool like recovery card as well as an extender. Once you already have the Cyber / on field, it just jumps out of the hand, which is cool. And then, whoops, that's a spoiler. And then the last one I play is Harpie Queen. Just 1 copy. I honestly don't... You could drop this if you want, but it's kind of cool. It's 1900, so this plus Harpie Lady 1 is already like a 2200 beater, plus if you had Field Spell, a 2500 beater. So it's kind of nice to be a big monster, as well as it just searches you the Field Spell, which in the right matchup, Draco, Altergeist, Subtears is actually disgusting. Like, that card just wins you certain matchups like that with heavy back row matchups, and the duel's just over immediately. It's crazy. That card's like so wild. But yeah, that's the Harpie lineup. I think it's 12, might be 11. Hold on. Yeah, it's 12. So that's it for the Harpie monsters. Moving on to the rest of the monsters. Keeping it simple here. You guys know the hand trap lineup I've been leaning on as of the new format with Dragoon and stuff. So I really like Ash, particularly this format. A lot of people always say, like, oh, Ash is getting weaker and weaker. It's not as good as it used to be. It stops 3 attacks. You know what I mean? Like that's one of the big ones that, like, even if you just save the Nash. Like, you hit 3 attacks, and, like, there you go. That was your opponent's follow-up play. Veiler's really good, though, because it hits Verte Anaconda, keeping them off of Dragoon, and this deck, like, I don't even know if it has an out to Dragoon. So, yeah. And that's it for the monsters. So 18 monsters in the main. Going into the spells, we've got 3 copies of Extravagance. I showed this off at the beginning of the video. Definitely a lot more budget than it was before. But this deck really, Cyber Slash is like the most important card in your extra deck. The other ones are kind of utility. But yeah, I just think you need a power card like this in something in Harpies, because it just baits that first negate, baits that first Ash, baits that Boral Savage, baits the whatever. You know, what's it called? Arclight. Just baits any first negate because they don't want you to go +2. So yeah, 3 Extravagance, definitely pretty important in the deck. Then we get to the Harpie lineup, the Harpie spell lineup, 3 Hysteric Party and 3 Elegant Egotist. This card's insane. It's one of the best cards in the deck, but it's not searchable, so you kind of just have to draw it. But it's pretty cool. If you don't know what it does, you can do one of its 2 effects. You got to pick. You can either activate it, and on activation, it'll search Egotist, which just gets you a Harpie Lady 1 straight out of the deck, which is a pretty good extender. Or you can, the turn that this card is sent to the graveyard, on the end phase, you can add 3 Harpie cards from your deck to your hand. That's any Harpie card. So spell, trap, monster. Keep in mind, Harpie's Feather Duster is a Harpie card. So is Harpie Feather Storm, like the best cards in your deck. So this card search is just insane stuff. It searches you a follow-up while also searching you like 2 insane cards. And then Egotist, just a good extender. But sometimes you don't have a way to send this, so you just search this, which is fine anyway. So I like the versatility there. It's a really nice card in the deck, for sure. Which takes us to our one of Harpie spells. We have actually a good amount of them. I play 1 copy of Hunting Ground. I get it. This card's insane in right matchups, but I think for the meta right now, I'm playing it at just 1. It really is like, it's fine versus Eldritch. Like, it baits out a lot of their stuff really early, which is kind of nice. But it's still not even that good versus Eldritch. So just a 1 of there. 1 Harpie's Feather Duster. This card's insane, and it's searchable in this deck. Like, people are already like contemplating just maining this because of the new format, because combo is a little bit more bricky, a little bit less good, and Adamantipator is a little less good. Like, we might see more back row like decks. So this is just nice to have as a 1 of. Easy side out if you don't want it, but it's also searchable off of Hysteric Party. This is 1 copy of Harpie's Feathered Rest. It's a pretty cool card. It's kind of like an Archetype Pot of Avarice. It's searchable. It just says, like, shuffle in any Harpie cards in the graveyard. It says 3 Harpie cards in the graveyard. Harpie monsters, I think, specifically. And then draw a card. But if you controlled a level 5 or higher Harpie monster, you actually draw 2 cards. So it becomes like legit Pot of Avarice as long as you control Cyber Slash. Which is kind of cool. So it's just a cool card. I definitely dig this card, and that's why I can afford to play 2 Harpie Lady 1. So you're bricking a little bit less, but you also have a card that like resets them if you need to resolve that 3rd Egotist for some reason. And that's just one I didn't have. Same thing with Oracle. Those are the only 2 cards I'm like really missing in the deck. And then Alluring Mirror Split. This card's still cool. I like this card a lot. It's like one of those cards where like, oh, I don't know what to search. I can search off Perfumer, but I already have Egotist. I already have, you know what I mean? Like, I already have Hunting Ground. Like, what else do I get? Mirror Split's actually kind of an annoying card for some decks to deal with. It just says if a Harpie monster is destroyed by battle, you can special summon any Harpie monster with a different name straight from the deck. Or if this card's destroyed, you get to revive any Harpie Lady monster from the grave. So even if they want to destroy this card, like, they kind of don't, because you're just going to get a free summon off it anyway. So it's kind of annoying. It's one of those annoying cards, like, don't fuck with me in the battle phase. But also, if you fuck with this card, I still get advantage off of it. So pick your poison. It forces them to, like, unicorn cards like this, which is not optimal for sure. You'd rather be unicorning other stuff. So yeah, annoying card. I like that card a lot. And that's it for the spells, which then takes us to the traps. 3 Harpie's Feather Storm. This card is like the best. This card is the best card in the deck. It's better than Harpie's Feather Duster. I don't care. This card is insane. It's Calamities. It says if you control a Winged Beast monster, a Wind Winged Beast monster, you can activate this card. It just says all activated monster effects activated by your opponent are negated till the end of the turn. And it also says if you control a Harpie monster specifically, not just a Wind Winged Beast, you can activate this card from the hand. So you don't even have to like set this to the field and risk having it like get hit by something or getting like well, I guess Kaiju could still like fuck with you, but I don't know. There are like weird situations where like you wouldn't want this on the field because you may not have had an optimal time to fire it off, but your opponent could have tried to remove it anyway, which is really annoying. So Featherstorm at 3. 3 impermanents as well. Pairing 3 impermanents with Ash and Valor at 3 at least gives this deck a chance, you know, going second versus like a combo deck. Just hopefully slow them down enough to mount a little bit of offense on their turn and beat over something, bounce something with Cyber Slash, and kind of get in there. But yeah, I just think it's necessary in the form. I think it's the best hand trap. It doesn't turn 3 attacks on. It doesn't get negated by Guardian. I don't think Adamancipator is like insane anymore, but I do think it's still pretty solid. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's still like part of the meta. And then the last card in the main is 3 Trap Trick. I do not care if you say that this is bricky, this is bad. Harpie's Featherstorm is the best card in the deck. And if I can play 6 copies of it plus technically Hysteric Sign, like technically 9 copies of it in our deck, I'm going to do it because the card is too insane. It's Calamities. Like you're literally just hitting your opponent with Calamities. And that to me is so powerful. Like there are so many decks that just wish they had a way to get a disruption that strong. And I think to not take it seriously and not like focus the deck around it is probably a mistake. So we're going all out on cards that get us to Harpie's Featherstorm. And that's it for the main deck. 40 cards in the main. We're not messing around. This is definitely a deck that you want to open up like Perfumer if you can. That's why we're playing like Extravagance and stuff. So I don't really risk going above 40 in a deck like this. So yeah, that's it for the main. Moving to the extra here, we've got 3 copies of Cyber Slash. I actually only have 2. Couldn't get a third in time, but I would play 3 if you're playing Extravagance just because it's like the only monster that actually matters in your extra deck. This card's insane. If you don't know what this card does, it says it can be it can be made by as long as one of the Harpie monsters, or sorry, for its summon, you can treat a Harpie monster as a tuner. Any Harpie. So even if you had a Harpie and a random level 4, you could still make it. But just putting any 2 Harpies on the field, because they're all level 4s, they just like immediately go into Cyber Slash. So that's really, really dope. And then the other effect, like the actual main effect, is when, let's see, when a spell or trap card is activated, except during the damage step, as a quick effect, you can chain this card, or not chain this card, but you can activate this card to target 1 monster on either field and bounce it. Actually, I think it's specifically a monster your opponent controls or a Harpie monster you control and bounce it to the hand, which is pretty decent. I mean, like, we have stuff like Trap Trick, Impermanence, Heavy Storm Duster, nothing else I think is a quick effect. No, but those are the main quick effects, as well as like any spell or trap your opponent activates can still trigger this card to just bounce something. So it adds a bounce aspect to the deck, and it's also the biggest beater now for the deck. It's 2,600 plus the field spell is 2,800 plus Harpie Lady 1 is another 300. Like, so this card can get pretty big and just bounce stuff and like really push for damage, because sometimes you literally just go like make 1 of these on your turn, bounce a card, like stun your opponent out, make a second one, bounce like another card, and then like you just get in for damage. Like that with the field spell with both of these is already 56. And then you'd only need another like 24 at that point, which actually can be pretty easy to come by in this deck. This deck doesn't extend like crazy, so that's why I didn't build like a super like combo variant, but the deck can push for damage when it needs to, especially with stuff like if you had like 2 Harpie Lady 1s on the field with 2 other monsters. They could all be 2,000, and then you just like go in, boom. Alright, for the rest of the Exeats, because this deck is like all level 4s, I played 2 Lightning Chidori. This card's actually insane. It goes like, put a face-up card on the bottom of the deck, and then target a face-down card, right? No, it targets a set card on summon. Yeah, on summon, on Exeat summon, it targets a set card and places it on the bottom of the deck, and then you can once per turn remove material to place a face-up card on top of the deck, which is just insane. Like, if this card survives another turn, you're going to remove 3 cards with this card. It's insane. Like, if you can play it in a deck, you play it. It's a really nasty Exceed when you resolve it. 2 copies of Tornado Dragon. This card's pretty cool because not only does it give the deck back removal that it really didn't have outside of, like, Heavy Storm Duster or not Harpie's Feather Duster or Hunting Ground, but also it gives you like another inherent way to be able to just pop Sign. If you're not really worried about your opponent like killing you, you just make this with an Exceed and just like pop your Sign and then just search 3. boom, you're in a good spot. And then, you know, you're cruising. Especially if you already had another Harpie Lady on the field, separate of this, because you search Featherstorm and then still can activate it from hand. So this can definitely be a cool play to go into. I would almost consider playing 3, but didn't for this, so that's up to you. And then for the last 3, like Exceed utility cards. Dweller and Baguska for interruptions. I like playing 1 and 1 because sometimes one is better than the other. Just depends on the matchup, whatever you prefer. You could play 2 of 1 if you prefer one in the meta. I think Dweller's pretty nasty right now, but I also think Baguska's like low key pretty good at the moment too. And then Ice Beast Zero Fin. This is a very utility card when it comes up. It like blanket negates all monsters your opponent controls and gains 300 attack for every, is it face up card or card on the field? For each face-up card currently on the field. I believe it includes itself. No, except this card. So, depending on how many cards are on the field, he could just gain like 1,500 and just be like 35 and like beat over a Dragoon. It just depends. It's very specific situations, but it could come up in other situations too. So, it's just random, but they're all pretty decent. And then for the links, we're on 2 copies of Harpie Conductor, 2 copies of Simorgh, Bird of Sovereignty, and 1 copy of Hraesvelg, the Desperate Doom Eagle. So for these, like, they really don't matter that much. These really don't come up all that often, but when they do, it can be kind of nice. So Harpie Conductor is a pretty cool card because when she's made, she'll just like trigger the field spell to just get an extra pop. So sometimes you play her just for that, even though you're probably making Cyber Slash more often. But she is fine, and she does give protection to the rest of your Harpie cards. Simorgh is pretty cool if you have just like the link fodder material. You just go into this guy, he gives you protection, as well as on the end phase he's going to summon like a Perfumer. Boom, Perfumer gets you a search, so it's kind of just like a +2 that gives you then protection. Is kind of annoying to work around. And then Hraesvelg. This card's pretty cool. It has a quick effect to just banish a monster from your opponent's grave once per turn, and if your opponent has no monsters in grave, his attack gets a 2,400 buff, which makes him 4,800. So he's a cool card, but he won't come up that often. But I guess in the right matchup, he could be kind of nasty just to disrupt that graveyard and stuff. So with like Called at 1, I guess this card could come up a little bit more. But yeah, it's pretty cool, and that's pretty much going to do it for us here, guys. That is the main and the extra. I would also consider doing stuff like Goes and Match in the side, just because this deck really just doesn't summon much of anything outside of wins. Like maybe you'll summon like an Ice Beast, a Baguska, or a Dweller every, I don't know, 8 or 9 games, but bam, side Goes and Match, and you can just win some games going first. It's really nasty. So I like this deck a lot. It's really cool. There's definitely some ways they could definitely help it out, but I think Cyber Slash is a nice start. It actually gives the deck a nice boss monster to actually work around going like into the future. It's a really cool card, and it's really easy to make too. You make it like every single turn 1. Perfumer's 1 card Cyber Slash, like what is it? It's like Harpist plus any other Harpie card is like 1 card Cyber Slash plus another extra card. So it's pretty cool. Like the deck is really like a cool deck. One thing I would say though, if Konami is ever going to support the deck in the future, I would say the best thing they could do is power creep this card. Egotist is awesome, but the problem is what Egotist summons is not awesome. So I would love it if Konami went and made like a Harpie Lady 4, 5, and 6, because we already have Harpie 1, 2, and 3. Just 2 and 3 are like awful, and 1 is like still bad, but it just at least like does something. If they made like new versions of this that counted as Harpie Lady in the deck, so you could pull it off of Egotist, but still do something like, oh, 1 on Summon gets to pop a card your opponent controls. 1 gets you an extra search for a card. Add a Harpie card from your graveyard back to hand. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of like utility you could have there, and it's like such an integral slot in the deck. But I feel like the reason I'm only playing 2 copies is because this card is just not that good. But if we had actual better ones, I would definitely consider playing like way more, and then you'd be able to free up other slots in the deck. Like, oh, we don't have to play Harpist. Cool, we can drop Harpist to either 1 or none, and actually play like better cards to summon off of Egotist, which is such an integral part of the deck. So that would be the first thing I would do, is if I'm Konami, like, and I want to make Harpies better, is make Harpie 4, 5, and 6, and actually try and make them like legitimately better than they were. So that could be something pretty cool, I think. At least that's where I would go. That's something that definitely stands out to me as like a big opening in the deck, and an easy way for Konami to just be like, oh, that's an easy fix. Let's just make some actual decent cards to be summoned off of Egotist. That's just me, though. But that's going to do it for me here. I know this video is already like 20 minutes. Sorry, I went in a little long there. But that's Harpies. And as always, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. I'm always taking suggestions on deck ideas and stuff when I'm building. If I'm missing anything here, if you think there's a good spicy tech in the deck that you think is worth mentioning, definitely throw it in the comment section down below. I don't think this deck is very competitive, but I do think it's a really fun casual deck and can definitely top a locals, because I did a year ago. I went 4-1, could have gone 5-0. I actually flubbed up a round, completely my fault, not even the deck's fault, and could have got first place potentially, but it is what it is. So yeah, like I said, leave me your thoughts down below. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more deck profiles from me in the future, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.